The Texans' master plan has been revealed in another mock draft. PFF has a full 7-round mock for the Texans. What will they do? Do they take a weapon early? They need offensive line help. We've been going back and forth in the comments all week, and it's been pretty fun to think, what do they actually do? Because some of these players in this mock draft are almost like, will they fall? I don't really believe so. So we're going to talk about it all on today's mock draft. The draft season is here, but if you wouldn't mind taking 2 seconds, hit that subscribe button. 91% of you are not subscribed. The Texans Digest family, the support has been unbelievable. Really do appreciate everyone. We've been growing, we've been building this community, and so close to 1,000 subscribers, all thanks to you guys. If you love the Texans as much as I do, talking about this team, hit that sub button, join the channel, make sure you don't miss an upload. Let's hit this milestone together and jump into the video. First thing is first, the first pick of the draft. I don't believe this happens, but Matthew Golden, an absolute blazing speed, could be a perfect asset to this team. And 4.39 40-yard dash, 59 receptions in 2024, a very explosive player who could be a great kind of route runner for a secondary option to DeMeco Collins. So I love Matthew Golden. That would be a great first pick. Look at his just 4.29 40. I mean, blazing speed, undeniable talent. The only problem is I did a mock draft and I had to trade up to get him. Every time I hit restart, there was nobody letting him go past 15. So he has definitely flown up people's draft boards. I don't believe he's there. There's a potential possibility of, do you trade up for him? So that's the question you have to keep in mind. But it's also amount of, what do you want to give up at that point in the draft to move up 10 spots if you were to go after a Matthew Golden. Second pick, Cameron Williams from Texas. Natural, great fit inside for the Texans. Could be a couple of inside plays. Had a few rough outings in the playoffs, 2 sacks, 2 hits, and pass protection. But overall, a solid athletic guy to put inside, do pretty well. And honestly, I'm not too sure how this works out, because what do you do up against, you can move guys around. I'm not saying Williams isn't a guy you can't move around, but it's tough to be able to think, where do you put everyone, especially because doing some of these mock drafts, I can't even get a Cameron Williams. Everything is just very difficult when it gets further and further into draft season, because all these players fly up draft boards. And you see, I had to trade up for Golden, and even Williams wasn't there in the second round, so it's definitely a tough play for the Texans. But third round, the pick 79, I would consider taking a tackle after you go interior. I know Williams can play tackle, but I feel like you can also move him inside. You can move him in the guard. That's kind of the Texans' biggest need right now. Yes, you have a guy in Laken Tomlinson, Trent Brown, and Cam Robinson right now. So that's where I don't actually think that it's a bad idea to take a wide receiver first round. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. Everyone's talking tackle this, tackle that. Josh Simmons, Gray Zabel, all these tackles, right? I just don't think that that's the case. You look at Matthew Golden, you look at Luther Bird, and you look at Emeka Egbuka. Obviously, Caserio is going to make the right decision as to who is there, who is going to be available. They could very well go tackle if none of their receiving options are there. But they kind of need receiver desperately. And I feel like with how the offensive line is played out, it really doesn't, I wouldn't mind taking a second and third round pick at the tackle just to round out that kind of line and have those guys sit behind veterans and learn, because they are, day 2 picks. But another day 2 pick, Dylan Sampson, an absolute monster running the football for Tennessee. And the biggest thing here is I don't think third round would be the best decision to take a running back. Sampson definitely would fall to this spot. It's one of the only picks that I've seen make it to this spot in the mock draft. But you got an RJ Harvey, you got a DJ Giddens, you have a lot of players that you can just fill in, and you're not going to have Dylan Sampson running the ball right away. I mean, maybe they do a committee with Mixon to make sure they take the less of the blows off of him. But Mixon, this is going to be a run-first offense for the Texans. So I don't hate the idea of drafting a running back third round. I just personally don't think it's going to happen. You have a lot of other players tooting as well. He's a quick guy, had some fumble problems. But my point is there's a lot of depth at running back, and I don't think that investing a third-round pick in Dylan Sampson is the best idea when you can get a running back in the 5th round for probably similar value, especially being a complementary back to Mixon. Then the next pick from Mississippi, we need defensive linemen. It's definitely a good idea to go interior D-line. Now, TJ Sanders was available towards this part of the draft, so I wouldn't have minded that either. A very good player out at South Carolina, so that's somebody who can also plug up the middle. They did pick up Sheldon Rankins in the offseason, so I don't hate that either. But just overall, looking at what they have, they definitely, it's not a bad idea to go defensive line. It's definitely something I would consider in the future. Now, 3rd round, they have 2 third-round picks, so I ended up taking Emory Jones in this mock draft, but not the biggest on Jared Lichtenhahn. It's definitely tough to look at this. Lichtenhahn, looking at kind of where he's at, I feel like he could be and this is the problem with the Texans. They have 1 5th-round pick and 2 7th-round picks, so it's likely you reach on Lichtenhahn here or you don't get him in the 7th round. So I don't mind taking a tackle here if you don't take an Emory Jones later, but like this is the mock draft that it looked to be. Couldn't get Williams in the 2nd round, but that was the mock, if you would. So I took Emory Jones in the 3rd round because I feel like the Texans will take a tackle in the 3rd round if they go with a weapon 1st round. And you have a lot of weapons to pick from in the 1st round, so that's a good sign. You have maybe Emeka Buka falls. Luther Burden will probably fall. You have players that are going to fall because of this is how it works every year. Some players that are mocked to go in the 1st round, they always fall. You have players. Now, is it Golden? Is it Ibuka? Who falls to 25? I've seen, and there's a problem with mock draft. Mock drafts are never correct. But when you have those guesstimate teams taking Matthew Golden at 15, I don't know if he falls to 25. But in every mock draft that I've seen, Golden has been the guy to just go early. And if that's the case, the Texans have Kelvin Banks on the board. And now I'm starting to think about the process, and it looks like Nick Caserio will be going with a weapon, believe it or not. I just, for some weird feeling, and it also depends on who's on the board and what's best available. But if Kelvin Banks is gone, I don't think they're that interested in Josh Simmons. Donovan Jackson has been a name to look out for. You could also trade back at that point in time, but honestly, first priority might just be a weapon, and I don't think the Texans will trade up, but it's definitely something to consider when looking at a long-term option to fill the number 2 wide receiver role. Because looking at Christian Kirk, he will be here for a year. They might re-sign him, but it's really a fill the void for right now. Christian Kirk is obviously not the long-term answer. There's been questions about will he be able to play in the slot healthy. Overall, I'm starting to come around to, you know what? I don't hate the idea of drafting a receiver. These late round picks is where you have to do your research. And I mean, Caserio has delivered day in and day out with these productive picks like Bullock last year in the 4th round. There's been so many great picks from him in the middle rounds. So I feel like he's going to get the most out of his talent in the 1st round, whether that is the specific receiver he wants or not. It's definitely going to be the most valued pick. And I've seen the fact that Kenyon Green, one of the worst picks in terms of the Deshaun Watson trade, which we'll talk about in next video and revisiting. But looking at what the Texans did in that draft with taking Green in the middle rounds or middle of the 1st round, it was definitely the worst pick. And they went with a position of need in guard. And when you do that and you say, hey, we need a tackle, we're going to take only a tackle 1st round. I feel like they're coming around to, we like these positions, who's going to be available. Sorry if this is confusing. I feel like I'm talking in circles sometimes, but I am now shifting my focus. I wanted Banks, but it's also, you know what? Why not? Matthew Golden would be a perfect option. You do need a guard as well, so do you wait until the 2nd round? There's just a lot of questions as to what do you do to construct and sculpt the best drafts process and draft strategy. because you have your scouts. You know what guys you can get at what value in certain rounds. Sampson is not my ideological best pick because you could take a running back at pick 236 and I'd be okay with it. Yeah, it's not an RJ Harvey. Yeah, it might be like a Devin Neal if he does fall to the 7th round, which probably won't. But 5th round is ideally where you take a running back. So let's just run through it real quick. Pick 25, traded up to 15 to get Matthew Golden. Pick number 2, it is not Savalenia. It is Cameron Williams from Texas. But again, looking at this process, 25, look for a weapon. If a weapon is not there, offensive line is your next best friend. Donovan Jackson, Kelvin Banks, one of those two guys if they're available, maybe even Gray Zabel. I don't mind him. Some people are like, that guy is not good because he played at North Dakota State. But even that, you could also trade back, get some more picks. That's the first round in a nutshell. Second round, find what is the best value. Do you go with a wide receiver in the second round? There's a lot of depth at wide receiver, but will those guys pan out is the question when you need somebody to probably start day 1 at wide receiver 2 unless Justin Watson is going to start, which is definitely an iffy play. You need some long-term future on the offensive line. Cam Robinson is not the future. Trent Brown is not the future. Those two guys are going to be replaced in this draft. Whether it's 1st round or 5th round, that is the toughest part of the thing. Second round is going to be offensive line. I just don't know what. Interior tackle. Those second, 3rd round, I feel like that's where the Texans are going to be the most valuable and where they pick. It's going to be an offensive heavy draft. Do they take a wide receiver, a tight end in the first 3 rounds? Probably not. But they're going to be very, very particular with these picks. And I'm looking for an offensive line, a guard and a tackle. Ideally will be picked in the first 3 rounds. The first 3 rounds, the Texans have 4 picks. 2 of those picks will be on the offensive line, and 2 of those picks will be wide receiver, running back, or a tight end. And that's just the ideal situation. There's been rumors that they go defensive line. Not in the first round. That would be a terrible idea. But I think I've rambled on enough to where this makes sense. If it doesn't, call me out in the comments. I don't mind. Always trying to explain the best options for the Texans, not necessarily the things that I believe that they should do, like PFF saying Dylan Sampson in the 3rd round. I don't hate that. I think it's definitely a good idea to think about, but with the depth at running back, that is my least favorite pick in the draft. 3rd round, there's a lot more valuable players at tackles. So 2nd, 3rd round, I think is going to be a tackle guard range if they don't go offensive line in the 1st round and they take a wide receiver in the 1st round. Then you have your tight end with that Sampson pick. That's okay. To recap and to not sound crazy, 1st round, weapon, wide receiver. 2nd round, offensive tackle, guard. 3rd round, tackle or guard, vice versa. 4th round, that's your tight end. 5th round, that's your running back. And then the 2 7th round picks, you can play around with what is the best value of those picks. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully it was a good video. Appreciate everyone watching. I know it was a little bit scrambled, but let me know your comments as to, we've been talking about the draft so much, I feel like it's just repetitive at this point. But at this point, it's a guessing game, and it's a what if this, what if that. So it's definitely a difficult process for me to process in my brain. But thank you everyone so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Again, really trying to hit those 1,000 subs. If anyone could do it, it's the Texans Digest family. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate all the support on the videos. Comment down below if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video.